Hello and welcome. Today we are joined by Erica Sheffield, VP Strategic Research and Insights Communications. Today, Erica will be going through our 8th annual major purchase study. But before we get started, keep in mind that both the phone lines and computer are in listen-only mode. If you have a question, please send it to the host using the question or chat box on your screen. The attendee list and any questions asked are hidden for your privacy. This webinar is being recorded for your convenience and will be sent out after the webinar. With that said, Erica, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Great, thank you so much. We are so excited to have you join us today. Every 2 years, Synchrony conducts a survey of consumers who made or are in the process of making a major purchase in a number of specific categories, which we're going to walk you through. And really the main objective of this research is to track the consumer journey from inspiration through the final purchase and understand the role that financing plays in the decision process. Specifically, we want to understand the consumer journey for major purchases so that Synchrony and its partners can create relevant marketing and products to impact this journey. And this is the 8th time this study has been conducted at Synchrony. We have 30 minutes to walk through about 35 slides, so we're going to run through pretty quickly today, but I think you guys will really, the executive summary is very comprehensive, and I think you'll get a very good idea of what the key insights are coming out of this. And then we'll go through the deep dive, the role of credit, the impact of the pandemic, and then we're going to end on one of the category snapshots to give you an idea of all the things this study looks at category by category. So let's just jump into the background and methodology a little bit for those who are new to give you an idea of how this survey is conducted. So for this research, we speak to Synchrony cardholders, but also non-cardholders who made a major purchase of $500 or more in the past 6 months. And that's how we're defining major purchase. And you can see the categories that are included in this research. It's furniture, electronics, fine jewelry, appliances, lawn and garden, home improvement, sports and fitness equipment, instruments and music, eyewear, bedding and mattress, flooring, and automotive. And this is very comprehensive. And when we say 500 plus, we don't mean the average is 500. The average is about 2,000. We just mean at minimum it's $500 purchase. And this is conducted in July. So let's dive into the executive summary. So overall, we know that the pandemic has really had a significant impact on the major purchase journey. Some of the things we saw is that almost 50% said the pandemic forced them to reprioritize their major purchase needs. And when we go through the data, you'll see how that breaks out. One of the key findings of this study is that mobile phone usage throughout the journey is up significantly. 76% are using their mobile phone on the major purchase journey versus 48% just 2 years ago. This is a giant increase. Another thing we saw is that Amazon had an increased presence as part of the journey. And we'll walk through some of that data, but really 30% are going to Amazon for their major purchase versus 24% in 2019. And again, major purchases are being made online. This jumped 10 points since just 2019. 26% of all major purchases are being made online. More shoppers are completing the major purchase journey without even entering a store. 25% are never entering a store. And we know, of course, the pandemic has exacerbated this. And 3 in 10 cardholders say the pandemic will change the way they shop for major purchases in the future, and we'll see how that breaks out. So taking this a little further, the gap between in-store and online purchases is shrinking, and consumers are getting more comfortable with the idea of exclusively shopping online, even for major purchases. However, we do know that the role of in-store is still key, and the vast majority of large purchases are still made in store, and we'll walk through that data as well. So a lot of these purchases involve interactions with sales associates and financing as well. Looking more specifically at some of the key takeaways for financing options have become even more important over the last 2 years. Almost 50% said the pandemic made them more likely to use financing options. We know many have been strained. 36% said they were more likely to seek alternative financing options, and we see a lot of those on the horizon, like buy now, pay later. For instance, 50% of Synchrony cardholders say buy now, pay later option is important when making major purchase decisions. And then we saw some generational differences as well. The younger users, younger generations are even more likely to use mobile and visit Amazon than the older cohorts, and younger shoppers are even somewhat more likely to seek out alternative financing options, such as buy now, pay later, as you're probably seeing on your own, in your own businesses. This is a snapshot of the overall major purchase journey. 2019 is on the left, and 2021 is on the right. And what you're seeing, if you're looking at the major differences, is this giant shift to online, particularly mobile shopping for research and for purchases in 2021. We do know this started before the pandemic, but it's only been accelerated by COVID's impact on lifestyle and behaviors. Again, 26% made their major purchase online in 2021 versus just 16% in 2019. This is a big jump of 10 points. And please note that we do see a slight decrease in the amount who are researching financing options and who obtained financing options in 2021. And we feel this could be due to the fact that some had more stimulus cash and a surplus of discretionary income because they weren't spending it on things like entertainment during the pandemic. This slide recaps the big changes that we're going to walk through in more details in the pages to come, but they all point to the major purchase journey increasingly moving online, especially to mobile. 3/4 of consumers are using their mobile phone on the journey versus just 46% just a few years ago. Again, this is a very significant jump, and purchasing online is up 10 points. I know we keep saying it, but really this is such a crucial finding that we're going to look into throughout this journey. And again, we'll be going a little bit fast because of timing, but if you guys have questions, just let us know at the end. And of course, even though we're seeing this giant move to online and mobile, we don't want to discount the importance of the in-store experience here. 65% of major purchases are still made in-store, and the in-store experience is an essential part of retail shopping for 2/3 of consumers. The salesperson still plays a critical role in helping make the final product decision. And we kind of break this apart by category in coming pages. You'll see it varies by category. And the salesperson plays no role in only a very small percentage of purchases, 15% for cardholders and 11% for non-cardholders. So let's take a deep dive into some of the facets that we just discussed. So one of the metrics that this study looks at is the length of the major purchase journey from the moment someone first thought about wanting or needing a product until they actually made the purchase. And in 2021, the length of the journey was shorter overall. The average number of days across all categories was 58 days, which is 6 days shorter than 2019. And we feel this could be due to the efficiency of online research versus in-store research. We know many more are researching online versus in-store at the beginning of their major purchase journey. Another metric this study looks at is spend, and this is critical. What we see is that spend is up in nearly every category since 2019, except for fine jewelry and auto service, which makes sense since people are staying at home more, which is a driving factor for both jewelry and automotive. As for the spending increases in nearly all categories, this could be due to a combination of rising prices and inflation, but also this extra discretionary income I mentioned from the stimulus or surplus cash for when people spent less on services the first year of the pandemic. Consumers are still visiting an average of 2 retailers online and 1 in person prior to purchasing, But what has changed is the number who visit Amazon before buying, which is up significantly. Amazon is playing an increasingly outsized role in U.S. retail and recently became the world's largest retail seller outside of China. In fact, 40% of all U.S. e-commerce will be on Amazon in 2021. And I'll tell you, when we shared this internally at Synchrony, this was one of the statistics that people were really most surprised about, the giant role of Amazon in retail in the United States and how much it's growing. So we see two things when we look at Amazon visits by category. Here's a breakdown. People are not visiting Amazon as much to research purchases like automotive, flooring, eyewear, and home improvement, which really makes sense since those are high-touch categories where sales help and consultation is more necessary. And we also see which categories have seen a recent increase in Amazon research, and this is furniture, fine jewelry, and sports equipment. And this could be due to the increasing amount of retailers in these categories on Amazon and also the increased comfort level in buying things like furniture or jewelry online in 2021, which we will look at. One thing we added for this year is the role of local retailers, and we see that local retailers are still very much part of the consideration set when making a major purchase, despite the big move to mobile, to online and Amazon. More than half prefer to shop local, and more than one half visited a local retailer, be it in person or online. Not too surprisingly, as more shoppers visit Amazon to do research, less are visiting a retailer or manufacturer's website to do research. We know that 91% of shoppers occasionally or regularly read online reviews, and Amazon is really the leader in this space. They get 200 million unique visitors every month, and a large proportion of these visitors are leaving online reviews. So it's an enormous repository for online reviews that people can access. And as we mentioned, one of the most impactful findings of the research is the significant increase in mobile device usage along the journey. We talked about the increase from 2019, but here we see the increases over time going all the way back to 2013. And I mean, we know that mobile use is expanding in the U.S. and globally. There were 384 million smartphones sold globally in Q4 alone for 2020, just to give you an idea of how many people are still participating and moving to mobile. Here's a look at when the purchase was made in the journey in terms of how many visits in and how this has trended over time. And we see that over the long term, more are buying on their first visit than in 2013 and 2019 across most categories. And this makes sense when we look at the increase in online research that is being done ahead of time to inform purchase decisions. So let's look at the role of credit and financing. There's some interesting stuff here. This slide really speaks to the value of credit and how shoppers continue to see great value in using credit cards over time, and purchase protection and rewards have become more important to that value equation. So here's a couple of statistics that we feel at Synchrony are important. 56% of major shoppers say their credit cards, they use their cards so they don't have to pay right away. That's more than half. And 70% of major purchase shoppers say they use credit cards because they know their purchase is protected. That's nearly 3/4. And 70%, again, nearly 3/4, say they use their cards to earn rewards. And we know rewards are a very big influencer in the process. And this slide here speaks to the value of financing. So really, even though it's slightly down, the vast majority of Synchrony cardholders see value in retailer financing. 78% of Synchrony cardholders feel comfortable with financing through retailer-specific credit card. 71% of Synchrony cardholders feel that financing makes large purchases more affordable. And 60% of non-Synchrony cardholders, big ticket shoppers, say they would consider financing if it meant they could bring the product home the same day. And I think this is really critical for retailers to understand how important this can be. So in terms, again, of online research, most are researching financing options online, which is a shift primarily via the retailer's website. However, more are going directly to the financial institution's website over time. And here we can see the shift. We see 75% of shoppers who research financing did it online, and this is up 5 points since 2019. And here's where they're going, to the retailer's website, 87%. And again, mobile research of financing options continues to steadily rise, while asking the sales associate continues to decline. And we'll look at some of the reasons why in coming slides. But we see people are really moving to do this research on their own rather than going to the merchant in person. Because of this, mobile credit applications are on the rise as applying through a sales associate continues on a downward trajectory. And we're going to look at the reasons why in coming slides. So you see the top line, people going through, going to in-store or through an associate has declined since 2015 from 81% to 62%. And the amount that are doing it online towards the bottom, you can see, are all increasing. And what are the reasons? Really, it has a lot to do with ease of use and also privacy. Here are the reasons. So the people that are applying in-store versus online are doing it in the moment. 69% are doing it in the moment. They made their final decision on what to buy while I was in the store, so they wanted to complete the transaction then. And then 50% said it's easier. 67% actually of overall obtained financing in the store. So while people are moving to online, they're still doing it in store as well. And then, as I mentioned, the people that are doing it online versus in store are doing it because they wanted to do it at a different time of day. And they also prefer the privacy of keeping their financial information to themselves rather than giving it to another person. And they wanted to take their time to read all the information. So 30% obtained financing online among Synchrony cardholders who did obtain financing. And this is one of the key slides for the financing portion. We see that access to credit does drive incremental retailer spend for a significant proportion of Synchrony cardholders. 24%, 1/4 of Synchrony cardholders accessing financing said they spent more than they intended. And Synchrony cardholders who spent more, they did it because they wanted a high quality product. So maybe they picked the couch with a nicer fabric, or they were able to afford things that they couldn't have afforded before. And Synchrony cardholders reported spending $950 more on average than non-cardholder big ticket shoppers. And you can see the numbers here. $24.84 was the average spend versus $15.34, and this is a 62% difference. So this really speaks to the value of financing. And this really wraps up kind of what the difference is. I know this is one we get asked for a lot. And this talks about what people might walk away, how many if financing wasn't available. And what we see is that 34% would potentially walk away if financing was not available. And this is 1/3 of purchasers. So this really shows how much an impact financing does make to the business. So let's talk about the impact of the pandemic, some of the things that we're seeing. We know the shift to online but really how are people feeling in general about safety and precautions in spending. So a significant proportion of shoppers agree that the pandemic has changed the way they will make major purchases. So 33% said it's changed the way they'll shop for major purchases in the future, and we saw this through a lot of the metrics today. 57% said that they're satisfied with the way retailers made them feel safe. I know this is becoming extremely important in terms of COVID protection. And 31% they experienced shipping back orders, and this is something we also have been looking at in our sentiment tracker. We know there have been a lot of shipping back orders and a lot of inventory issues because of the pandemic, and 31% have experienced this during the pandemic, and 73% were aware of these potential delays. So really looking here on the bottom, the pandemic-related reasons of why they applied for financing online. 14% had pandemic-related concerns about being in the store, and 3% said the store had restrictions about being in the store. And we know this is a moving target over time, but right now we're kind of seeing a mix throughout the United States of what these precautions mean. So due to the pandemic, over 1/3 are more likely to seek out alternative financing options. On the left-hand side, we see that the pandemic had a financial impact on many consumers. 42% experienced a major or minor negative impact on their finances, and 11% felt a major or minor positive impact. And I can tell you through a lot of our sentiment tracking data, this really splits out by household income. So we know that people below $50,000 household income have experienced the bulk of the negative impact, and the people who in household incomes above 100,000 are the ones who really saw a positive impact during the pandemic. A lot of people made money in the stock market at the upper incomes. So we start to see, a pulling apart of the middle class during the pandemic. And I'm sure this is being felt everywhere. And how this has had an impact on major shopping for purchases, if you see on the right-hand side, 62% are more likely to seek out the lowest price. And this is certainly true, especially for people at the lower income. 61% prioritize a clean and safe shopping experience. This goes across all incomes. 50% are more likely to take advantage of financing offers through a retailer, which is really bad. That's more than half. And 48%, the pandemic has caused them to reprioritize which major purchases to make, home improvement versus travel. We've been tracking which categories people have been spending through the whole entire pandemic. We've seen a very big increase in home improvement. We started to see the move back to travel in the spring. And now that COVID fears have returned again, we see a big push back to home improvement spending and a shift away from spending on travel. So this is a constantly moving target, but we are seeing 50% are reprioritizing back and forth which major purchases to make. 39% said they're less likely to open a new credit card. 38% said the pandemic has caused them to cut back on major purchases, although overall we did see an increase in spend across all categories. And 36% said they're more likely to seek out alternative financing options. And finally, 21% said they're more likely to seek out a video or virtual consultation versus going into a store. Some of the healthcare businesses that we work on, we've seen a very big move to virtual doctor visits, and we're starting to see virtual consultations in retail, which is really this is definitely something new for the pandemic that we're seeing. And finally, when it comes to pandemic influence, about 1/3 of major purchase shoppers say virtual shopping tools are important to their shopping process. And this is what I just mentioned. When choosing where they would make a major purchase, this is where it becomes important. So 60% said, had the product not been available, they would be interested in virtual tools. COVID precautions make them more likely to use virtual tools. And 30% said that they participated because the retailer offered a virtual shopping experience. But this is still in the very early phases, and only 1% took advantage of online virtual video consultations. But I can tell you from internal conversations, we know this is definitely on the rise. So thinking back to that first page when we talked about all the categories that we looked at, for every single category, we did do an in-depth category snapshot. We know we only have half an hour for this call today, so we took you through really quickly, but we're just going to show you what type of category snapshots are available by industry. And if you want to reach out to your Synchrony contacts, you have access to this information. We'll just show you one, for example. This is what's available for a category snapshot just for the furniture industry alone. And for each category, you're going to see, number one, what is the exact path to purchase for that category in terms of steps and timing. You'll be able to see where purchases are being made and the amount of spend, and really the impact of the pandemic on major purchases in this category. And if you look on the right-hand side, you'll see all of these actions broken out, and you'll see how the changes have been, whether it's been up or down over time, an increase or decrease in terms of, for instance, researching online, whether it's up or down, and whether they access research, did the shopping online, all the statistics will be available to you. And on the next page, we really focus in on the value of financing for the journey in this specific category. And here's a look for furniture. So we see how people feel about the role of financing, decisions around use and financing, as well as actual use of financing in each and every category. We see how financing affects spend in every category. And the one we get asked for a lot is, how might consumers defect or walk away if financing wasn't available for a major purchase in this category? And we see, for instance, here in furniture, 33% of consumers say they would likely walk away or defect from a purchase if financing wasn't available. So there's so many great tools available to you guys if you want to reach out to your specific Synchrony contact, and they can help make this information available. And we have about 1 or 2 minutes left. If you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to try and help answer them.
Great. Thank you so much, Erica, for the insights today. I think these are all super interesting. And so, yeah, if we do have time for questions, I don't know, just a couple minutes here. I don't know if anybody does out there. Feel free to put it in the question or chat box, and Erica will try to answer those. We'll just give you a second to see if we have any. All right, Erica. Oh, I think we got one. So let me see here. Yeah, so definitely, I can answer this one. This person said, lots of great info here. Can we get a copy of the presentation? They want to review it with other executives, and absolutely, this will be recorded, and it will be sent to you shortly after this. You can reach out to either myself or your Synchrony rep if you have one, and we can always get you the PDF version as well. All right, Erica, it looks like that's all the questions or comments that we have. So thank you so much again.
Great. Thank you all so much.
All right. Thank you. Well, we hope you all have a great rest of your day. And thank you so much for listening in and joining us. Thanks. Bye-bye.